All right, YouTube, what's going on? Denonu here, the man with the biggest and the most blackest privilege on YouTube. And we're going to be talking about Marvel's newest foray into Netflix, The Defenders. And I'm just going to be giving my opinions on it, stating what I liked, what I disliked about it, things that I think they could possibly change, maybe things that I think would have worked a little bit better. But basically, this is just going to be an off-the-cuff commentary like I normally do. I'm going to try to keep things to the point. I'm going to try not to say any, spoilers since the show just came out and I'm a fan of it, so I don't want to ruin it for any of you guys who, let's say, didn't, see it yet. But I binge watched the show when it came out. Probably not that night, but maybe the next morning. All throughout the day, I binge watched it. And my overall impressions, if I had to give it, a rating or something like that, is that it's pretty good. With me being a fan of the comic book characters, I know who they are, I know where they come from, I know the history behind them. Me being a fan of all of that stuff, I liked it. It's not nowhere near as shitty as Iron Fist. Let me just throw that out there, because Iron Fist, they just kind of something got fucked up. the Marvel formula, the people always say that works for them. Somebody forgot to carry a remainder, but that shit got fucked up somewhere. But the Defenders is actually pretty good, to be honest. It's has a whole lot more, what's the word I'm looking for? More character to it. My biggest problem with Iron Fist, not so much the rest of the Netflix shows, is that the characterization wasn't there. You had the basic premise, you knew who the characters were supposed to be, but the story was kind of fucked up. The fight choreography was fucked up. Things like that. It was like had a lot of problems with it. With this, it's not the case. I can only really pick out maybe 2 or 3 things that didn't sit right with me, and that didn't kind of ruin the show. It's not like one of those things where it's like, oh, it didn't have, this thing in it, so the show is fucking gone. No, it's not that. It's just that I'm trying to choose my words carefully. I don't want to jump into the spoilers or nothing like that. But basically, the premise of the show is this: the Hand, the ninjas and the bad guys that's been showing up in pretty much all of the Netflix shows, probably outside of Jessica Jones. They didn't really do anything with that, I don't think, with the Hand. But the Hand have been an ongoing bad guy in all the other Netflix shows. This is their big end game that they were planning, and basically the Defenders have to try to stop them. That's pretty much what it is. And my number one problem with it, with the story, so to speak, without diving into specifics, because like I said, I don't want to spoil anything. It's the same thing I said when the Hand were in Daredevil. I made a couple videos talking about that when that first dropped. The Hand are not a credible threat, at least as far as Netflix. In Marvel comic books, the Hand are a group of badass ninjas. For those of you who, if I had to throw it out there, if you ever seen the movie, and I hated the movie because it was so stupid, but if you ever seen the movie, what was it called? Ninja Assassin or American Ninja, one of those, well, those are probably 2 separate movies, but I think it was called Ninja Assassin, where you just had like 50 ninjas roll up on somebody and they kill them, or if you saw, what was it? The Wolverine? I watch all the comic book movies, so they all kind of blend together when it comes to which one. But I think it was in the Wolverine, with the one where he lost his healing ability at the end when he was going to fight the Silver Samurai. He had to make it through this Japanese village town, and he was fighting all those ninjas. That they were the Hand. They didn't call them the Hand in the Wolverine, but that's what the Hand are. They're just like tons and tons of undead ninjas. That's what they do. The Hand in Netflix, and I know it's a separate universe, yada, 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 all that BS, but the Hand in Netflix, they're not the Hand. They're just like average people, or seem to be average people, fighting other average people. And I guess you could say that, but And I know it's because they're on a TV budget and all that stuff. I'm not saying you have to be comic book accurate. But what I'm saying is, if you're a group of a worldwide organization of ninjas, dress your people up as ninjas. Like, I'm not saying that, you have to have like movie like quality with your, on your budget, but I'm just saying put them in ninja outfits. They're a Japanese ninja clan. Why not? I mean, you can't have like at the end, like, I'm not, well, no, that's going to spoil things. So, but basically you have, 5 fingers of the hand. It's kind of like, for those of you who have to equate it to something, if you've ever played an Elder Scrolls game, think of it like, how like you have the Dark Brotherhood. Their symbol, I guess you could say, is that bloody hand, and how there's 5 chapters of the Brotherhood, and the guy on top of each chapter is a finger of the hand. It's something similar, where the hand have, each finger is a top member of the hand, and there's 5 of them. I think we saw 4 because they mentioned that one died before, so there's 4. You have Sigourney Weaver, not the Asian ninja guy that was in Daredevil, but the guy who was in charge of him. Gal, the older Asian lady that pops up in all the Netflix shows, really like her character. They always show her kicking ass and stuff like that. And then you have this other guy who I don't want to mention because that's kind of spoilerish, so I'm just gonna leave it alone with him. But in the show, the only one who is or looks like he's a part of the hand would be the guy who ran the Asian guy. He was this Japanese dude who walked around. All he did was speak Japanese the whole time. Complete stoic, badass, evil type character. That is, normally in the comic book, the hand were either ninjas or you have like characteristic bad guys. Again, throwback to the Wolverine, but the woman who infected Wolverine in that movie, the one with the real snake-like powers and could spit venom in people's faces, I think her name in the comic books is like Madam Viper or just Viper. She was one of the leaders of the hand in the comics. So that's why I say in Wolverine, they basically ripped the hand in that, but they just couldn't call them the hand. They just said like, oh, they're a ninja clan. But that's who she was. You had colorful characters like that who would lead them. In Netflix, another main problem I had with the Defenders, I would say it's the threat wasn't there. I mean, to be honest, the threat was not there. And like I said, maybe this was because of their budget, but normally, at least in Daredevil, they would show up, they would kill a bunch of people. And it was like that in the comic books too. In the comic books, when the hand would come on scene, they were like a legion of thousands and thousands of undead ninjas that they would just die and just bring them back to life, and then they would keep fighting. So when the hand would show up on the scene, they would always be like 1,000 deep whenever they would, see him in a fight. Kind of like how another prime example. If you guys have ever seen like well, you guys probably haven't seen it because I'm showing my age with this one, but go back and watch the first Ninja Turtles movie. The very first one, the one from like 89 or 90. That the foot in that, the reason why they were called the Foot was because the guy who made the Ninja Turtles comic book wanted, he liked Daredevil comic books, and Daredevil fought the Hand, so that's why he named, when he wanted ninjas in his, he called his the Foot. So that's why they're called that. But they, how the Foot showed up in that Ninja Turtles movie, again, that's how the Hand were in Marvel Comics. But in Netflix, the threat just wasn't there. Like, there was no reason, and that's something that's like, I don't want to dive into spoiler territory, so I'm not going to say what the threat was, but the threat that they had in the Defenders, it wasn't no like, oh, it wasn't like a nuclear bomb going off. It wasn't nothing major like that where it's like, look, we need to come together to fight these guys. Yeah, like there was a lot of hand people that they fought, but the Hand's end game, they didn't have anything. They were trying to do something underground, and they were trying to stop them before they can get there, but then they finally get there anyway, and you had to, they had to fight them and things like that. But the threat, once they told you like, oh, we finally got it, this is what we're going after, it was some bullshit. It was, I mean, that's why I was like, I don't want to spoil it, but it's like I want to though. I might make another video talking about it after a week or two, something like that. But the threat just wasn't there. YouTube. The two biggest threats in this didn't make any sense to me. I thought Marvel was gonna pull out some mystical stuff, like like once the hand get this, they were gonna go from like being like normal everyday type people who just knew how to fight to like maybe they go on the ground, they find this magical MacGuffin that turns them into the hand for Marvel comic books, but that just wasn't the case. And the threat once they told you what it was kind of underwhelming. And then the other threat being Elektra. I mean, she's not really hidden or nothing in there, but she's this black sky thing that they had in Daredevil, and they never did anything with that either. I thought that they were gonna come in there and be like, oh, she's the black sky, and have her, maybe she got some badass magical powers to go along with her kung fu, I'm gonna make up a word, but kick-assery, where she was gonna have maybe give her telekinesis and she would somehow fight and use telekinesis in that way, give her some kind of superhuman power to go along with her being like, oh, this is the black sky, it's the world's greatest weapon or whatever. But the only difference with her character is that, okay, they brought her back to life and then they just trained her on how to fight and kill people. So her being the black sky is just, here's this person that could fight. Yeah, she had a little bit of superhuman strength. She was like, she could kick Luke Cage across the room. But I'm sorry, to be like the world's baddest weapon or whatever, like if the hand gets this, it's over. It's like, I remember Stick was saying that the Daredevil in Daredevil's thing, but I'm sorry, that's kind of weak. You already got that. You already have badass ninjas and super strength. It's like, they needed to give her something else. You know what I'm saying? It's like, yeah, she's a badass, prodigious fighter. And I think even Sigourney Weaver said in there, like, oh, she's like the greatest fighter that they had based on her training. I don't know specifically why that is, because you got people who are immortal that live for centuries on end, but somehow they're weaker than her when she only had, let's say, one lifetime to learn some shit. And yeah, she learned how to fight. And yeah, they may have taught her a little bit extra, but you're saying that this one woman is stronger than, let's say, this guy who's 800 years old and has been fighting and living and training hit all of those 800 years? Bullshit. No way in the fucking world. So that's why I said that other side of the threat was incredible. It just not incredible, meaning like it was great, but it was incredible. It was just a dumb bullshit plot device around her character that didn't need to be there. So I thought that was kind of stupid. Outside of those two things, though, I love the show, to be honest. I was worried after Iron Fist that they were going to fuck this up, too. And I don't think that they fucked it up. Like I said, normally, like I said in the beginning, I only have like 2 or 3 things wrong with it. I thought characterization was done good. I thought Iron Fist was like, I was like, oh man, after Iron Fist, I was like, oh man, they're going to fuck this up because he's going to be like, a bullshit character. But no, Iron Fist is a whole lot better in this than he was in Iron Fist. I'm not saying he's the greatest thing ever. I mean, I wanted him to throw on that yellow bandana and, do some jump kicks like he does in the comic books or like fuck shit up. But I like the idea where they're going with this or his character, so to speak, because it's like sometimes he can control his chi, sometimes he can't control his chi. So it's like they don't want to jump into it and be like, oh, he's the Iron Fist from the comic books where he's like the perfect living weapon. It's like they're setting the foundation. Like, okay, here's our character. Yeah, he's the Iron Fist. He's still learning about who he is and what his abilities are. So it's like they can go forward with whatever they want. They don't want to make him super powerful right out the gate. So that makes a whole lot of sense. The story kind of revolves around him too, because without getting giving anything away, the Hand need him to open something. So they're trying to get to him in order to kidnap him and then use him to open something that they need to get that has, the threat in it that I was mentioning earlier. And by the story centering around him, it puts him at the center of all of the conflicts and the main point of the show. And I think that was something that they kind of needed to do because Iron Fist's solo Netflix thing was such garbage that they have to somehow, I'm not going to say redeem his character, but by making him a part of the ongoing story, at least in this one, it kind of gets people more on his side of doing things. You know what I'm saying? And by him being at the center of it, he was at the center of all the different episodes and the conversations and things like that. Like they had a sit down episode, kind of like in Avengers with the shawarma scene. Probably about 3, 4, 5 episodes in. This is after I want to say, because the show it has a slow build. I will say that they take time before they team up, because how they basically all get together is they're all doing their own thing. Luke Cage is getting out of prison, finally getting some of that coffee. Jessica Jones is still incredibly butthurt after the stuff that happened with her and the Purple Man. Danny Rand is going after the Hand because they took out Kunlun and he feels kind of guilty because he wasn't there, so he feels like he didn't fulfill his duty. And Matt Murdock is trying to just in Daredevil season 2, he drove his friends away. They got caught up in all of his stuff, so he's like, you know what, I'm done. I'm done being Daredevil. He's just trying to do him, but he's like Batman in a way where you can't turn it off. You can't just suddenly quit. So they're all just doing their own thing. And all the things that they're doing separately, it all ties into the Hand and what the Hand tries to do. So at a certain point, they all get together, and it's that one hallway scene that they had in the trailers where they're fighting all in the same hallway. That's the episode where they all get to that building at one time. They're like, oh crap, here's you. And they, are fighting the Hand at that point. So it's really, they're all fighting the same threat from different fronts. And the Hand comes at them hard with all of their characters and things like that. So they're basically on the run from them, and they run to that Chinese food restaurant, and they have a sit down and explain like, okay, here's you. What are we gonna do? And Jessica Jones is like, fuck this shit, I'm out. And everybody else, they sit down there and talk, and they basically give a rundown as far as like who each other are. And basically, what they're trying to formulate a plan to take out the Hand and everything like that. So, and it really, from there, it goes into just them trying to take out the Hand. It's this Defenders show isn't as, let's say, slow as the other Netflix shows. The other Netflix shows, they have action here and there. Daredevil probably more than most. Daredevil is probably the best, if I had to guess. That him and Jessica Jones are probably the best filmed shows from like a film standpoint. I don't mean to compare them to movies, but all the other ones like Luke Cage, when I seen it, kind of felt like it was like they're mashing two stories into one. You had the first half with the one black guy being the main threat, and then at the end it was like, oh, here's Diamondback out of nowhere, so it felt kind of jarring. The Defenders doesn't have that. It doesn't have that jarring point in it. There's no beginning, and then it's like, okay, then it stops for a little bit, and then it gets to the end. Even with Daredevil, you had the same thing. With season 2 of Daredevil, you had like Matt Murdock stuff. Then it's like, oh, here's Elektra. She comes in there for a couple of episodes. Here's the Punisher stuff in there for a few episodes, and then it jumps back into Daredevil stuff. So it jars you. It's like different segments, along with the main thing. But the Defenders, it's all in that same episode frame, so to speak. And another thing I didn't like about it was it only had 8 episodes. Like, what the fuck? Like, I thought Marvel Netflix shows were like all 13 episodes. Like, what happened with that? like I went into it, I'm like around like episode 7 and episode 8. Like the episode 8 came around, right? And it's like, they beat the Hand, they're all like going on their separate ways. I'm like, hold on, why is this happening on episode 8? Like, is another threat gonna pop up for like the last 3 episodes, right? Because I went into it, I didn't know it was just 8 episodes, right? but I don't know what happened there. But I wish they had the normal amount of episodes, because that's another flaw that I think the show had. The show, they tell a cohesive story. I'm not going to sit here and be like, oh, it feels fast paced or it feels rushed. No, it doesn't feel that way. They definitely did film it right. But I feel that things would have been better if they could have fleshed out more motivations, more stories, more characters. I think not necessarily the heroes. They didn't need to flesh out any of them because you have their solo series for that. But Sigourney Weaver's character, I wish they'd have fleshed out a little bit more. Maybe fleshed out the hands, their magical MacGuffin that they were trying to get, the threat, the end game. They could have fleshed all of that out to make that better if they'd had more time and more episodes. I don't know if that's because of time constraints. Maybe, I wouldn't think it's money, but I don't know who's funding these Netflix shows, if it's Netflix or if it's Marvel. I would assume it's Marvel and Disney, but I don't know how that works behind the scenes. So, I don't know, if it's just where they had to cut corners. Maybe they only had 8 episodes to do. Maybe they had to put it out by now in order to fit everybody's time schedule together or whatever. But I wish that they'd had more episodes and more time to just flesh things out. Again, I'm not saying it's bad. It's definitely watchable from beginning to end. It doesn't have any kind of dry moments in there where things drag on for too long. They drag on just enough. Like that Chinese scene when they were in the Chinese food restaurant. That whole episode is just them pretty much talking, and then the bad guys show up at the end. But you needed that to explain exposition, to have the characters meet each other, all that kind of sort of stuff. And they don't have an episode that feels like it's a waste. Like Iron Fist, when you go back and watch his stuff, he had a lot of episodes where it's like, oh, here's all this boardroom BS that you didn't want to see. They didn't have a lot of supporting characters to throw in here. Like all the supporting characters from all the other Netflix shows, probably besides Iron Fist, they all show up here in some fashion. And they all are, get their little 5 minutes here and there in certain episodes. Probably the most you'll probably see is Claire. That's because she's in all of them. So, she's pretty to see. So, put her at the forefront. I don't mind that at all. But the show is pretty good overall. It has action. It has a decent story. It's not the greatest. It's not going to change the world when it comes to story. Nothing like that. The fighting in it was done extremely well. I don't know what happened, if they fired that guy from Iron Fist, but whoever did the fight choreography, it feels like they did the same, or they got the same people or the same maybe team who did the Daredevil ones. So the fight scenes were done pretty good. Iron Fist was actually fighting this time around rather than bullshit fighting. They had him doing some badass stuff, kind of like they kind of made him fight like Daredevil, so it kind of makes sense. I mean, if you have the same fight choreography team, it is what it is. But if I had to make some changes to the show to try to make things a little bit better, I would say number one, I would have 2 different fight choreographers. Not necessarily fight choreographers for fight scenes. I would keep all them the same, because that's like changing a director halfway in the movie. That could change a whole different tone. But when I mean 2 fight choreographers, I mean have Daredevil be one guy, and have the guy who trains Danny Rand Iron Fist be another guy. Or have him, let's say, do 2 different style of martial arts. Do it that way. Have Daredevil, I don't know, his seems like a mix of stuff. But then you have, let's say, like, Danny Rand be strictly like Kung Fu or something like that. Because when you see them both fight in the Defenders, right, in the comic books, Iron Fist is the more traditional badass martial artist. You see that in a lot of his stances, a lot of his poses, a lot of his fighting. Daredevil, yeah, he's a martial artist. He knows how to fight. You see a lot of fighting, but it's not as traditional when it comes to poses or stancing. It's not as dynamic. That's what I'm trying to say. So I would say have Danny Rand, have him do like Kung Fu, or let's say one particular Chinese martial art, and then have Daredevil do like he fights in Daredevil and Netflix, because Daredevil and Netflix doesn't fight like he does in the comic books. It's more of like a mix between a couple different styles, and brawling and flipping, and it's more like a realistic form of fighting where it's like you're using whatever you can at your disposal to fight somebody. That's what I liked about it. But by both of them having the same fight team doing the show, they both fight the same. So outside of, let's say, when Danny Rand uses his Iron Fist, it's just like there's no difference between them. It's like, okay, they're both martial artists using the same martial art. You know what I'm saying? So that's why I said I would at least had, made him look a little bit different, or his style different, or maybe have the same guy, but let's say give Danny a couple moments in the show where he's doing those comic book dynamic poses with the Iron Fist or something like that. Because they were way too similar fight style wise. If I had to change something else, change the MacGuffin. Like I said before, make it a magical threat, something they could throw in there where it's like, oh, look, we had to come together to beat something. I mean, if you wanted to keep Elektra in there like that, have Elektra get something at the end that makes her powerful. I mean, I don't know what, have her throw energy blasts or some shit, make up some comic book shit, let's say give her an ability. Well, no, that'd be kind of too strong. I was going to say give her an ability where she could like suck the life out of people or something like that. Something you could do on a TV budget. But if she had something like that, then how would the heroes beat her? But give her in the hand something that's truly credible where they could take out the city of New York. Because what the threat was, I mean, I don't want to say it, but what the threat was bullshit. It did make a whole lot of sense why they didn't already have it, and it's one of those things where it's like once you realize what the threat was, it's like, really, like that was the one main thing. Like I got to that episode YouTube and I was watching, I was like, that don't make sense. How is this like? Because they would always reference like, oh, we're gonna take out the whole city. Cities rise and fall. It happens over time. So like you would think that it was like, all right, this is gonna be some badass magical threat that's gonna wipe out all of New York, right? But no, it wasn't. It didn't make a whole lot of sense. So have something, I don't know what, but have some type of mystical, magical threat that you can pull out. And I swear to God, it would have been so badass. I'm not gonna say what it was, but eventually, right? Once they reach what they wanted to reach, you basically found dragon bones. That was the thing. Like everybody would always joke about Iron Fist when he was like, yeah, I'll plunge my fist into the heart of the dragon, right? And they actually made a couple jokes in the Defenders, like it was like, yeah, whenever Danny says this shit, he's like, oh yeah, I just don't believe him, right? But then you actually seen dragon bones at the end where they were like the end fight scene, what the hand were trying to get. That area was basically surrounded by dragon bones. What they should have did, and I would have gave Marvel so much props, is if let's say the hand were trying to resurrect Fin Fang Foom, and have like that be the threat, that world shattering threat to be like, you know what? Have that be their end game. That would have been so hot, YouTube. Because with Fin Fang Foom, for those of you who don't know who Fin Fang Foom is an older Iron Man bad guy. Well, I say bad guy literally, but basically take a giant dragon that breathes fire, make him as big as Godzilla. That's what Fin Fang Foom is. For those of you who don't know, another one of Iron Man's bad guys, the Mandarin, he has these 10 different rings. Don't think about Mandarin from Iron Man 3. That's some bullshit. But go back, if pull up a Wikipedia page to see who the Mandarin actually is. He's basically this Chinese guy who has these badass magical rings. The rings actually come from Fin Fang Foom's race. And they were used as like a part of their technology and stuff. They fell to Earth, and the Mandarin, got them and made rings out of them, and then that's why he has all these badass magical abilities. But Fin Fang Foom is just basically Godzilla. I mean, it's like a guy. It's a big dragon that breathes fire. That could have been the ending threat, like the hand, for whatever reason, wanted to resurrect or bring out Fin Fang Foom to destroy New York, and then they could beat anybody they want, You can even throw in a line like, oh, we needed something to take out the Avengers if they ever fought the Hand, so we need something that's that strong. That would be Fin Fang Foom. You can spin off, I mean, if they wanted to do that, I don't see how the Defenders would, let's say, beat Fin Fang Foom, but, I mean, granted, they're on a TV budget, but So I would say I don't see how they can really do it, but or at least mention that that's the threat, and you can have them stop the hand just before they release Fin Fang Foom or whatever. Or let's say they release him, and let's say you show Fin Fang Foom, and he chooses not to fight for the hand. You know, do something like that, and have him just leave. You know, have him just leave, fly out into space, or fly away from New York, and then it's like, oh well, and then they beat up the hand, and then because Fin Fang Foom, you know, he was a bad guy on his own. So, and then you could spin off from that if you wanted to bring in the Mandarin with the, you know, with his actual rings and things like that. You can do all of that, you know, or just make up another story or give him a Netflix show, whatever you wanted to do. If you wanted to spin that off, you can. It leaves you open to do so. But the Defenders need a threat at the end, and it just didn't have it in the show. Outside of those things, I really don't see anything else that was. It wasn't bad. I mean, it was good. It's cool to seeing all the characters interacting with each other. I thought that was cool. You had Daredevil interacting with Jessica Jones in certain scenes, so that was cool. Jessica Jones was still an alcoholic bitch. You know, always loved her character for that. Danny Rand, they gave him more talking and more things to do to. They kind of made him kind of sort of like Claire when it comes to a lot of different things. He was like the glue that was like, you know what, we should be a team, or we should do this. We got to come together to do this. And everybody like, man, screw all that hero shit. So that was it was cool to see him and Luke Cage get a couple moments to where it's like, you know, they're going to do Power Man and Iron Fist. You know, just like their comic book series. You know, Marvel's working on that. They had a couple moments in there where they kind of referenced that, but. So that was pretty cool. But overall, you know, my inner comic book side, I loved it. I mean, I binge watched all of it. I think I watched the first half in one sitting. I got all the way up to like episode like 6, and then I had to leave and go do something. And then as soon as I got back in my house, I watched, you know, I finished it out, and you know, it was good. Like I said, it's like I just wish it was a little bit longer. I feel like they could have fleshed things out a little bit more. If they'd have fleshed things out a little bit more, they had a bigger end threat, had them come together to actually do something, to actually stop, you know, a bigger, badder threat, I think it would have been better. But so far, it's good. It's good. I would claim it's good. You know, you guys should watch it if you're into that kind of sort of stuff. But don't go into it expecting like, oh, this is the Avengers on Netflix. It's nah. Again, not saying it's bad, but it's just not as, you know, don't get overhyped for it. You know, it's great for what it is if you're a fan of the Netflix stuff and things like that. If you've watched all of the Netflix stuff, you'll more than likely like this because all the nuances from all the other shows, they kind of sort of bring them together in this. Except Iron Fist show, so leave that where it is. Don't bring nothing from that. But outside of that, you know, like I said, it's decent YouTube. I liked it a lot, but hopefully it does positive reviews and everything like that. I haven't looked online to see what people are saying about it. I'm getting the impression that it's underwhelming for a lot of people. Only because I think when Luke Cage came out, I know that broke Netflix, and that was extremely popular, you know, when that came out, so everybody was talking about it. But it's like I haven't seen a whole lot of people talking about it, so I don't think it's as, you know, I think it's underwhelming for like a lot of people. You know, it's like they go in thinking it's going to be this great thing, and then when you see it, it's not, and I think they just feel like it's not bad, but it's just underwhelming to what they expect. So that's why I say go into it. Don't think it's the next Avengers. Don't think it's nothing like that, but just go into it, watch it for what it is. And if you like it and you like it, you don't, you know. But anyways, fellas, let me end this video here, and we're going to pick things back up with the next commentary. I may make another one talking about Defenders with spoilers and things like that. I'm going to give it a few days, like I said before, and I may put out another video just giving my thoughts again, but explain spoilers where I get in depth talking about this kind of sort of stuff. So if you guys want to talk about anything specific down in the comments, let me know. Or if you guys have any future ideas for commentary videos you want to throw on my way, also let me know down in the comments below, or hit me up on Twitter. I got a Twitter account. I got a Facebook page, all that good stuff. But my name is Denonu, the man with the biggest and the most blackest privilege on YouTube. And I will see you guys in the next video. Peace out.